What another great weekend of just college basketball in general, but also the Missouri Valley Conference. It's a great weekend to be a Drake Bulldog on both the men and women's side of things. And we have a lot to get to. NBA news, which is rare because, like I said when I started this podcast, I'm not a diehard NBA fan. I like the Spurs growing up because of Tim Duncan and those guys. And I like Wemby. I mean, they're fun to watch, but just the style of play. I'm just not a big NBA guy. But some crazy news that was just dropped on us at midnight on a Saturday night, or if you want to call it early Sunday morning, was crazy that we'll get into. That makes no sense. And then we also have some more of the Missouri Valley standings to get to, how that kind of shaped up over the weekend, kind of got changed up a little with a few upsets, a lot of upsets just in general in college basketball that we'll talk about as well. But welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller. Really glad to have you here on a Monday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on all of our social media. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, as well as you listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Media app. We're on there as well. I should go through. Be fun to go through one these days, because now we're a month into this. It feels like it's been longer. It's been a great experience in growing this thing, but we're a month into this now because it's February, and I started this, I think, that first week of January. So really happy that we are gaining more followers, getting more reactions out and about in town. So appreciate everyone just making this possible. And thank you to, Travis and Ross for having me on and letting me plug this show. And yeah, just thank you to everyone. But we have a lot to get to. On Mondays, we always have a lot to get to. So let's dive into this. So starting off with the game I was at on Saturday, the Drake women played at 2 o'clock in a busy Knapp Center. It wasn't sold out, which was kind of disappointing to me. But I understand it as you had a number 3 team in the country playing 40 minutes away around the same time as well. So I understand it, but it is kind of disappointing because you have 15 players from Iowa on these two teams. I know Iowa State has a handful of Iowa players. I know Iowa does too. But Drake and UNI, they have the most local kids on their teams. So while it was busy and while the Knapp Center was rocking and it was a great atmosphere still, because the Knapp Center has always been a great atmosphere, I will say I was expecting more of a show out. But regardless, it didn't matter if there was 4,000 people or if there was 7,000 people in the Knapp Center. This was a show, and we expected it to be. Because the last few times these teams have played, the last 6 times, I should say, it came down to a 5-point victory for Drake 4 out of the 6 times. And these games, the last time these two met was in Illinois, and it went into overtime. They battle each other out. You're led by 2 great coaches in Warren and Pullman, 2 former players. Warren played for Creighton, and of course Pullman played for UNI, so she's going up against her old team. And you just have teams that respect each other, players that respect each other, players that know each other well too. The biggest, star matchup that we'll break down into this game was at the guard position of Katie Dennebeer, of course, for Drake from Waukee. And then you have Maya McDermott, who put on one hell of a show from Johnston. And these two met each other up so many times throughout their time in high school, and now they're in the same conference in Division I basketball in the Missouri Valley. You just have people that know each other well and respect each other, and that's what makes this rivalry so entertaining and always makes it such a battle, too. So Drake wins against UNI 69-63, and the speed and with the great players on the court, it was a show from the start. So the tip happens, UNI wins it. Maya McDermott gets a high ball screen, bang, 3-pointer. Drake then, they're like, okay, we're going to push the pace. We're not going to go deep into the shot clock. We can do that too. Katie Dennebeer drives up the court, kicks it out to Abby Alsma, who continues to be on fire in these last few games, and she knocks down a three. Then UNI goes, okay, you punched us, now we can punch back. UNI knocks down another three by Maya McDermott, this time in the left corner. Then Drake goes, okay, you threw another punch, we can take it. And they hit a three. So both teams start 2 of 2 from deep in the first minute and a half. I mean, they're not taking deep into the shot clock. You're getting maybe 3 people touching the ball at a time, and then it's a shot up. And that just set the tone for the game. And now it kind of slowed down. Both teams, they had moments where they had 2-minute scoring drought, some turnover issues. But overall, that was the tone of the game, of just back and forth, punch after punch, call and response by both of these teams. And as a fan of just basketball, it was awesome to watch. And I was talking with my dad over the weekend because we were both watching the Iowa USC women's game on Sunday where Caitlin Clark got her jersey retired. My dad said, how could you not love women's basketball at this point? And I was like, yeah. And you watch, it doesn't drop off either. You watch, a mid-major game of UNI and Drake, and it's just as high intensity and great basketball. It's a great sport to follow. And I've always enjoyed it, but I will say these past few years, and it is a thank you to Caitlin Clark and Drake being able to have great teams over the years too, it is growing, and it's awesome to watch. But so Drake wins 69-63. Bulldogs now sit in 5th place in the Missouri Valley with a 7-3 conference record, 13-8 overall. UNI dropping now their second straight game, falling to 5-5 in the Missouri Valley, 10-11 overall. And before we kind of get into too much of the X's and O's, what I saw, concerns, also stuff that I think is going to be really promising for the future of this program, here is Drake women's basketball head coach Allison Pullman, her opening thoughts following the 69-63 victory over the rival UNI Panthers.
What a game. I mean, what a day. What a great day to be a Drake Bulldog. But I would also say what a great day to be a women's basketball fan in the state of Iowa. So what an amazing rivalry that continues to unfold. And this game is always so very entertaining. But so proud of our group and so proud of really the body of work that these young women put forth this week in practice. And I think what we had the opportunity today was to watch that unfold. So I'd also just like to publicly thank all of the people who came out for National Girl and Women in Sport Day, for the clinic. We had over 160 young people come and take part in amazing celebration of sport. And so they got exposed to a number of different things. And so just so grateful for the amazing student athletes that we have here, to be able to allow our community to come in and feel really the specialness of Drake.
So let's get into the X's and O's of how the Drake Bulldogs were able to pull off this victory. And one of the biggest ones was Drake's ability to rebound. That has been a strong suit of the Bulldogs, but really against UNI, it felt like UNI would put up a shot and they knew how well Drake loves to get out into transition. So they didn't want to, charge the glass as aggressively, because they knew if they got burnt, Drake could get on a roll and a hot streak. So you could tell they were kind of playing soft, but overall Drake still was able to haul in a bunch of rebounds. They tied a season high with 36 defensive boards. 45-35 was the differential overall in rebounds, so that was huge. And then just getting to the free throw line and making the free throws were huge. Drake, they had a season low, only 9 fouls. So UNI wasn't getting free opportunities at the charity stripes. They only got 2 free throws, and they went 1 of 2. Drake, on the other hand, was forcing UNI to foul and was making the best of the opportunities, was taking advantage of the opportunities. Drake, 16 of 18 at the free throw line. And you just see those numbers and you see how well Drake played defensively. But what this game came down to, and what we said in Friday's show, proved to be right. And that is, we said on Friday that we liked Drake's chance to win this game because of Drake's ability. Their ceiling for their role players, I said, was higher than UNI's. And that's not saying UNI doesn't have good role players. They do. It's just they're kind of younger. They got to figure it out. And I think right now Drake just has more athleticism and a deeper bench. And that's what proved to be right and proved to be the game changer. The depth versus Maya McDermott was huge. Maya McDermott played an unbelievable game. And she nearly single-handedly beat the Drake Bulldogs. She put up 27 points, shot 10 of 22, 7-11 from deep, only had 1 turnover, 4 assists, could have had more because, man, she is one of those players that just makes the players around her better and puts her players into the best position possible. Very similar to the way we saw Caitlin Clark, where she could just find openings that you don't even see when you're watching on TV and you don't have someone face guarding you. And it's unbelievable. And she single-handedly almost takes down the Drake Bulldogs. But while she puts up 27 points, no other UNI player put up more than 9. Only one player scored with 9 points, and that was Taryn Wharton. And no one scored over 10 points. And you just saw the depth becoming a major issue because while Drake couldn't stop, really, Maya McDermott, they were going to allow Maya McDermott to have to single-handedly beat them. And you go over to the Drake Bulldogs, and that box score looks completely different. You have Miller putting up 20 points, Katie Dinnebier putting up 17, most of them coming in that fourth quarter. Abby Alsma, 13 points. She has now scored 33 points in the last 2 games. And then Courtney Becker may not have scored in double figures, but she had 9 points and 11 rebounds and was huge in that first half when Katie Dinnebier got 2 fouls, and you have to sit Katie, and you're looking for someone else to be an offensive power for the Bulldogs. She was a big part of that in the first half because of her cuts, her backdoor cuts, the guards finding her, and then her getting her team second chance opportunities with 11 total rebounds. So you just look at the box score and you see how one team had help and the other didn't. And the team that had help was the team that came out victorious. And so the Drake Bulldogs take down UNI 69-63. And want to talk about the final play because Maya McDermott, she cuts the game down, the Drake lead down to 1 with, I want to say, 30 seconds, maybe a little less. And Drake's inbounding it. And during the press conference, we asked Coach, were you expecting to kind of just slow down and let them foul you and make your free throws like the team has been? Or were you planning to be aggressive? And Katie Dinnebier, who had kind of struggled throughout the game, started to have a really strong second half, mostly in the fourth quarter, is standing at half court as they're getting ready to inbound it. And she's being face guarded by Riley Goebel and also Kaba Lauby. And they're kind of laughing, like sitting at press row. You were making eye contact, and you can see Katie Dinnebier laughing because she's kind of like, I have 2 players on me, and the UNI players are laughing too. Then the ball snaps, and you have UNI trying their hardest to guard her, and she just splits the 2 defenders like it's the Red Sea and goes up, gets fouled, makes the and one layup. And it's just plays like that by a leader that Pullman talked about in the press conference of she just has trust in her players. While maybe the, plan was to get the ball to Katie and to slow it down, let them foul her. But Katie understood if she has a lane to take it. And maybe you do get fouled. And she did get fouled and she made it. And it's one of my favorite things to watch about this Drake team as a whole. But really, specifically, Pullman and Dinnebier, and I was talking with Eli from the Des Moines Register and Alyssa from the Register as well. She was doing a cool story that's about to come out here soon. I won't say any more about it because I don't want to spoil it, but be on the lookout for a really cool story by Alyssa. But I leaned over to her. I was like, isn't it awesome in these final few minutes just watching how Pullman and Dinnebeer just know how they can connect and how to adjust and how to play the game clock? It was fantastic to watch. And it was something I contributed to Roman Penn and Darren DeVries. They both knew how to do that from experience. And the great guards and the great coaches, those are the connections and those are the vital moments that you have to be on the same page. And that's what Dinnebeer and Pullman did. And that was a huge play, and the place went nuts. The loudest the Knapp Center was all night long, and it was just an amazing play. Real quick, too, I should mention all the photos in, if you're watching on YouTube or social media, all these photos are by DKG Images, and really appreciate Devin and him letting me use his photos for this podcast. Awesome guy, awesome photographer, and some really cool shots he took over the weekend. So all the Drake UNI photos are from DKG Images. Make sure to check him out on Twitter, on all the social media pages. Make sure to give him a follow, like, comment, all of his stuff, because they're really fantastic work, and we appreciate it at Media Row for him letting us use that. But so with Drake's victory, Drake now sits 5th in the Missouri Valley, and they have a tough test. Illinois State, I asked Anna Miller of how she grew into this rivalry with being one of the few players not from Iowa playing in this one, and how she grew to kind of respect the rivalry. But one she didn't have to grow into. It just became apparent that Illinois State was always going to be a real challenge for Drake and make up some of the best games here in recent seasons against the Bulldogs were the Redbirds. And they play again, and Illinois State just continues to win, and they continue to win. They play Friday at the Knapp Center at 6 o'clock. The women basketball Missouri Valley Conference standings, you have number 1 now, Belmont, after a big victory over number 2, Murray State. That was a battle for first place. But the final score, Belmont wins 96-89. If you would have told me Belmont was putting up 96 points, I would have said, oh, so Murray State won like 105-96 or 110-96. I would have not thought that Belmont would put up that much in a loss, because they're more of a defensive team. And it's not saying their offense isn't good. I'm just more saying Murray State's offense is so good that when you see such a high-scoring game against a strong defensive team, my mind automatically switches to, oh, this was a shootout, and that's not what you want if you're the Belmont Bruins. But they get it done against the Racers. 96-89, Belmont wins. They take over first in the Missouri Valley. Murray State at second. Missouri State at third. Illinois State taking on Drake, who's number 5. Illinois State just continues to win. 4 straight victories for the Redbirds. Should be a packed house and a fun game against Drake on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Or Friday, I apologize, at 6 o'clock. So that's your Missouri Valley Conference women's basketball standings as of right now. Expect more changes, because if this past weekend taught us anything, it's that you can never get comfortable at any position. But with all the changes, all the upsets that we saw over the weekend, it was still a fantastic weekend to be a Drake Bulldog. And that starts with the men's side of things. They tipped off at 1 o'clock on Saturday against Southern Illinois. It was perfect. You get into the Knapp Center early, getting ready for that UNI battle, and they have it up on the jumbo screen. So that was awesome to watch Bennett Sturts and Tavion Banks dominate. But Drake, the men's team, takes down SIU on the road 75-65. Wasn't a complete game by any means, and Drake wasn't comfortably in the lead until about 8 minutes or less in the second half. But really, other than that, it was another game where Bennett Sturts was just on another level, And then Tavion Banks woke up too. So before we break down those individual performances, just talking about the Drake Bulldogs as a whole, the Drake men 20-2, first team in the country on Saturday to win 20 games this season. They've now tied the 2020-21 squad for second best start in school history, the 7th straight season now with 20 plus wins. Only 12 times Drake has done this. So that means 7 years ago, Drake had only done it 5 times in their school history. So it is a great time to be a Bulldog. It's a great time to jump on this bandwagon. I mean, I've been a fan since a kid, and I wish I could remember the Twitter handle, but someone tweeted out, 20th win season in the last 7 seasons. It definitely makes up for the 12, 20 loss seasons. And that's how far Drake has come. I remember, in elementary school, in junior high, high school, telling buddies how, yeah, I don't mind Iowa and Iowa State, but Drake's my team. And, they would kind of laugh at it. Now Drake's not a laughable team. Sure, you can make fun of them being in a mid-major, but they win. And they continue to win. And if you're someone who makes fun of the mid-major, Drake's a team I wouldn't want to see in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Bradley's not a team I'd want to see in the NCAA tournament. So, again, just the way Drake has really built their program and the culture has changed in these past 7 years has been amazing. And as a lifelong fan, it's just a great time to be a Bulldog. But now going through the X's and O's, Drake continues to stay efficient. They shot over 50% for the 5th time in the last 6 games. They're now 10-0, or I apologize, 5-1 in conference play when they shoot 50% or better. And it was Sturts and Tavion Banks. They were the guys that dominated this game. Sturts, 30 points, the second time he's done that this season, tying a career high. Tavion Banks has a career high with 21 points. He also got it done on the defensive end with 4 steals. You had a career defensive day coming off the bench from Isaiah Howard. He had 4 steals as well. And then you just had another career mark for Mitch Muscari. Mitch Muscari now ties Clayton Corver from that great 07-08 team as the 17th most single-season three-pointers with 69. And he still has, we're just a little over halfway through the Missouri Valley Conference season. He still has all of February. And we know the shooter he is and the rhythm he's starting to find offensively is really impressive. And what he can do could be a game changer. And just as we're talking about Drake, and you bring in these D2 guys, you bring in a D2 coach that, yes, knows how to win, but you don't expect him to win 20 games with still 10 games to go. But you have Ben McCollum now as the 3rd coach to win 20 plus in his first year with the Drake Bulldogs. Keno Davis in 07-08 won 24 games. And then you had Darren DeVries win 20 in his first year in 18-19. So just no slowing down from this team. And like I've said on multiple podcasts, I really enjoy his adjustments he's made this month, or towards the end of January, and definitely at the start of this month, of getting a higher rotation rate of, yes, Sturts and Muscari probably still play 40 minutes a game, but you're resting other guys, so they're getting help. It still makes me a little nervous when you look at the box score and you see Sturts with 38 minutes on there, but I trust McCollum. He must know something. And I wonder too if, we've talked a little bit about Sturts and his issues at the free throw line, but I wonder if that's just exhaustion from playing 40 minutes a game. But McCollum never seemed too worried about the free throw stuff with the Drake Bulldogs. He even said to us in a press conference, you make them or you miss them. But this is a team that, like I said, would not want to face in the NCAA tournament. And you just look at the Missouri Valley as a whole, it's still wide open. Drake may have 20 wins on the season right now, but they still look beatable. I mean, for the most part of that SIU game, they weren't in control for the whole time. Bradley just got smoked by UNI on the road, but are still a really strong team. And when things are clicking, are one of the best teams. And then you have Belmont, who can put up offensive numbers. You have Murray State, that when their offensive starting lineup clicks, they're really strong. The Missouri Valley, I think, deserves to be a two-bid league. They won't, though. I mean, it's just, I think it'd be really hard. Bradley doesn't have really the strength of schedule to, if they lose in the conference tournament, to really push them into the NCAA. Drake, if they make the conference tournament and it's a close loss to a Bradley team, then maybe they have a shot, especially with the help that Kansas State gave them over the weekend, dominating, I should say. Number 3, Iowa State. That surely helps. Vanderbilt, they continue to play strong in the best conference in the country, in the SEC. But while I can sit here and try to preach for the Missouri Valley to be a two-bid league and give you stats and give you reasons, overall, I could say this with 99% certainty, it's just not going to happen. But then you look at the Big Ten and they're going to get 6 to 8 teams in like they do every year. But it was another great weekend for Drake, but it was a really good weekend in the Missouri Valley as things just got shifted around. On Sunday, you had the UNI Panthers taking down Bradley 83-69. Panthers with 4 players in double figures. Anderson put up 17. You had Max Wiesbrod, the junior guard, put up a career-high 18 points. Jacob Hudson, coming off of that 1-point performance against Drake, puts up 12 points. And then Cale Schmidt, the senior guard, puts up 12 points as well. Bradley, though, just way too many turnovers, way too many fouls. They had 14 turnovers, 9 in the first half. UNI definitely took advantage of that, 19 points off of turnovers. And the biggest reason Bradley lost, because you can look at how Jaquan Johnson was really the only player that offensively had a good game with 27 points off the bench, and he's only a freshman, ladies and gentlemen. So prepare to hear Jaquan Johnson quite a bit, unless he leaves for, some sort of transfer portal with being on the bench, but definitely has potential for the next 3 years. But Bradley's big 3 was non-existent in the McLeod Center. Duke Dean, only 2 points. You had Montgomery with only 2 points, and then 3 points by Hannah. The big 3 combined for 7 points. You're not going to win many games putting up only 7 points from your star players. And that's just a credit to Ben Jacobson and his coaching, the execution by the players. But also, it was just not Bradley's game. One of their worst performances of the season in terms of turnovers, shots just not falling. And UNI just took advantage of it. And Jaquan Johnson had a great game with 27, but just not enough to single-handedly lead a team to a big win as UNI dominates 83-69. That game puts Drake up now 1.5 games in first place above the Bradley Braves. So you have Drake, number 1, Bradley now a 2-game losing streak, UNI at 3rd. Belmont loses 2 straight now, but they're in 4th still after a 5-point home loss to Evansville, a team in St. Louis that if I'm a Bulldog guy, if I'm really any team, that's a scary team because you don't know which Evansville's going to show up. Is it the team that's going to only put up 50 points, or is it the team that is going to put up 80 points and take down a really strong offensive team like Belmont on the road too? That was only the 3rd road victory this season for the Evansville Purple Aces. And then you have UIC at 5th place. Evansville, like we said, a team that has won now 3 straight. They sit in 6th. But just a great weekend of Missouri Valley Conference basketball. A great weekend of basketball as a whole. The most upsets on a single day in the regular season in basketball history. 11 ranked teams go down over the weekend, including that team up in Ames with Iowa State getting blown out at home against Kansas State. So Drake plays Murray State tomorrow. We'll make sure to preview that game. They're on the road. That game on ESPN Plus. So we'll make sure to preview that game tomorrow. But before we head out for today, I need to talk about the Luka Doncic trade. I'm, like I said, not an NBA guy. I don't try to pretend to be. I do enjoy the playoffs, for the most part. But what the hell? What the hell are the Mavericks thinking? You're trading away your best player, the guy who led you to an NBA Finals appearance a year ago, the guy who put up 70 points a year ago, and it's not his age. He turns 26 at the end of February. Explain this to me. And I know people were putting out tweets of like, I mean, because I got duped. Hand up accountability. JD Snover, my buddy, he called me out on it, and I appreciate it because now I unfollowed that NBA Twitter account. I don't even know what it was called, but it looks so real. And they talk about Kyrie Irving requesting a trade, which I said, you know, of course he would. Why wouldn't he? But JD1 calls me out on that's a fake account. I appreciate that, JD. I got duped. And a lot of people said, you know, sure, you got duped, but it's not that unbelievable. But he said, why wouldn't one of the best point guards want to play with one of the best power forwards? Kyrie Irving doesn't want to rebuild. And you can tell me Anthony Davis is one of the best power forwards. Yeah, he is when he plays. Is he going to play? He's always unhealthy. He's one of the most injury-prone guys. And I know Luka's dealing with an injury, but at least that's a guy who you know for the most part during his career has been there and has been putting up great numbers. And just trading away Luka, it doesn't make sense. You know, they talk about, hey, it's a business whenever there's weird trades. But this one doesn't even make sense. Come on, Mark Cuban, Shark Tank man. Explain this one to me. It doesn't make any sense. You're giving away your best player and the player that was probably generating the most revenue in terms of jersey sales for nothing. For a washed up power forward, in my opinion. Again, I think he's just so injury prone. Yes, when he's fully healthy, he is a great player, but I'm not huge on Anthony Davis. None of it makes sense to me whatsoever. And then you see on Sunday, they lose by 44 points to Cleveland on the road. That starting lineup doesn't look good. Now Thompson's your main go-to guy, and that's a guy who has never been a create-your-own offense guy. He's always been the second choice with Steph Curry being able to get him open. And that was great when you had Kyrie and Luka, because then he was the third choice, and that's a great third choice to have. It just, none of it makes sense to me, and for that reason, I'm out. But maybe we'll see what happens. But Lakers now, great weekend to be a Laker, I guess. But thank you, everyone, for joining me today on the Media Row podcast. That will do it for today's show. Tomorrow, of course, we'll preview Drake Murray State. Also have a fun game that I think we'll play along together and maybe generate a few comments from you Drake fans and basketball fans in general. So really excited about that one. Won't spoil it because that'll be saved for tomorrow. Travis Justice Deep Tease, as I'll call that. But yes, tomorrow join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, at 2 o'clock. And be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to all of our stuff on social media at Media Row Podcast with Justin Miller. Signing off for today's show. Thank you guys so much. See you tomorrow at 2.